I've already created my project folder and the files inside it, so I'm just quickly gonna go ahead and walk you through what I've done. I've created an index.html file in here, and I've got 3 folders, one which is JS that will hold the JavaScript files, another one called images, another one called CSS, which I have my styles.sass file in here. Also, I forgot to mention that I will be using this HTML2 Canvas JavaScript library for my project, and the way I download the script is by going on their website, which is html2canvas.hudson.com, and then click on the HTML2 Canvas.js. Then you can Control and S to save the file, navigate to your folder, and then just save this file into the JS folder, which I've already have there. So I need to open this project in Visual Studio Code, and to do this, there are multiple ways of doing it, but I will show you an easy way. So you can just go to File, Open Folder, and select the folder that you're working on. So for me, it would be the poster art generator, and just select. That will open the project for you. Also, I need to mention that I will be using the LiveSASS compiler plugin and the Live Server plugin, which reloads the page for me every time I save. The LiveSASS compiler basically compiles my SAS file into normal CSS file. To install them, just search for them in here under extensions and just click install. To activate them, go back to your project, click go live here at the bottom, and also watch SCSS. As you can see, when I clicked live, the project opened for me. As you can see, it's blank, as all HTML is also blank. Now that we have all files that we need, we can start by writing the HTML. I have zoomed in so you can see a little bit better. To speed up things, I will use the Emmet abbreviation, which comes with Visual Studio Code. And if I just start typing HTML, it should come with some suggestions, and I will use the HTML5. So let's change our title to Post art generator. We need to include the HTML2 Canvas.js and Script.js. To include them, you can just do script source, and it will be under JavaScript folder and HTML2 Canvas.js. So that's great. Also, make sure you close the script tag in here. The scripts file I need to include at the bottom of my page. So we'll go ahead and copy the script that we just wrote at the top and paste it, and just change the file. So the file will be called scripts.js. So we've included script.js and we've included HTML2 Canvas.js. To be fair, we can also move this one at the bottom if you wanted to. It should be okay. The last thing we need to include in here is our styles.css file, and I've already done the link, so I will just go ahead and paste it. And it's basically a link which is style sheet link. The type is set to text CSS, media to screen, and the href goes to CSS styles.css, which is here. Let's start by writing our HTML. I will quickly create a section. And in this section, I want to have 2 things. I want to show the poster that we're editing, and I also want to show the rendered version. To do this, I will create 2 divs. And the first div, I will give an ID of capture. I will explain this in more detail a little bit later. And the second div that I want to do is going to be called render. So let's ignore render for now and focus on capture. Inside the capture, I want to add the background image, and I also want to add some text. Let's add an H1 saying something like start typing. And also let's add the image source. And as I said earlier in this tutorial, I've already downloaded an image from unsplash.com. I will just go ahead and include this. So it's under images. The name is a little bit long, but to give credit to the person that's taking a photo, I just kept the whole name. Alt tag doesn't really matter for now. Let's go Gene. That's it. If I save this, I will close the Explorer here so we have more space, and I will put my code editor to the left, try to open the thing to the right. Okay, so we get in start typing, and we also get in our image. Let's do a little bit of styling here first so you can see a little bit better. I will go to style.sass file, and I will also open the JavaScript file so we can edit it later, and close the Explorer. So under styles.scss, I'll do a few simple CSS rules to make things look a little bit better. So the first thing I always do is margin set to 0 so we don't get margin around. I also want to make the background to be slightly darker, so let's go for background color, choose a color, and if you hover over it should give you the color picker. I will choose a darker color from the color picker, something like this. Also I need to set the font color, the text color to be white. To do this you can go color 3Fs. Another big thing that I want to do is set the font to something that is a little bit more presentable and inspirational. So I went to Google Fonts earlier and I just had a look at some fonts that could work quite well, and the font that I really liked was called Imatric, which is like, I'm sure I've seen this font used on a lot of inspirational posters and stuff like that. So I was thinking it might be a good fit. So to install the font, click on it, select this font, then click on this select. You can either do the standard import or you can just import it straight into your CSS, and this is what I'm going to do. It just makes it a little bit easier. So I will show you. I will do this just above my body. So we've got the import from Google, and I also need to copy the font family and include it under my body. So now if I save and go back to my project, you can see that the font has loaded and it looks great. Let's now start by styling the section, which is this element here. I'm not gonna do a lot, so I will just do section. I will display as a grid, and I also want to justify the items to be centered. And the next thing I want to do is make the image a little bit smaller so you can see a little bit better. To do this, I can do image width of 100%. Then I can give the image a height, let's say 700 pixels, something that is visible, and I think that should work for this tutorial. And to fix the image so it's not squashed, we can also do object fit. We can either do contain, let's see how contain looks. That looks okay, but I kind of want it to be full width, so let's go for cover. So I'm giving the section a width of 700 pixels, which looks fine, but I kind of don't want it to be square, so let's change the height to be 800 pixels. Okay, I think that looks slightly better. So far so good. Let's now style the capture, and for the capture, ID capture open and close curly brackets. What I want to do is give the capture div element position of relative. I will show you why in a second. I also want to make the font size to be around 3M. This 3M is obviously based on the body font size, which is I believe around 14 or 16. Let's have a look. Font size. Okay, so it might be, so yeah, it's 16. What I want to achieve now is add this text on top of my image, and what I can do is, because we already have this div with ID capture, I can either give this h1 an ID or a class and style it, or I can just target the h1. And to simplify it, I will target the h1. So what I can do is capture h1 in here. I want to make the h1 to be position absolute. As you can see, the h1 is now on top of the image, which is what I wanted. I also want to give it a little bit of padding to the left and right. So what I can do is maybe we can just do top of 10 pixels, or I don't know, let's say top of 1M. That might be a little bit too extreme. Or maybe even 0. Okay, let's set the top to 0. I wonder why it's not going to the top. Let's reset the margins first. Let's set the margins to 0. And now I can do top 1M, which is again quite a lot. So maybe 0.5. Okay, I think that should work. So top 0.5, left 0.5M, right 0.5M, and bottom 0.5M. So now I've got this space which makes the design a little bit better. I also want to align the text in the middle, and to do this I will use text align center. And I think we're pretty much done with the styling for now. So the next thing I want to do, I want to add 2 buttons, which I won't be styling too much. But I want to add 2 buttons, one which will generate the poster, first the image, and the other one which we can use to download the actual image. And the first one, let's create a button. I won't even style this. And then this button, I'll call this button generate, and also I want to make sure that when we click on this button something happens, it generates the image. So I can do on click, and then we can call the function generate. So the first button is done. Let's add another button, which will be, this one will be a little bit more complicated because this will allow us to download the actual image. So I'm going to do an href with the ID of download. I will do download equals poster.jpg. So that will be the file name which is going to be downloaded. Inside this a tag, I also want to create another button. This button I will have on click equals, and I can call this function download. I also need to give it a name, download. Okay, now we have our button generate and download. They don't look the best, but it doesn't really matter as long as you can see them. That's all good. Maybe I can just do a simple one. Button font. Is this going to be extreme? No. You can see this a little bit better now. And for the render, I will just give it an h1 tag, cool render, so we can see what's going on later in this tutorial. We are now done with our HTML and we are done with the CSS. Let's do the JavaScript, which is the big part of this tutorial. So we need to create the generate and download functions first. I will click on my script.js file. As I said, the first function that we need to create is called generate. So to do this, I will go ahead and do function generate, open close curly brackets, just create the other function as well, which is called downloads. I actually forgot another thing. I also need to create a text area just above the buttons. And this text area will allow us to type, and the text will appear in here. Maybe that needs to be styled a little bit more. So let's super quickly do text area, and I don't know, give it a padding of 1em. Width can go 100%. And I'll just give it a height 200 pixels. Maybe that's a little bit extreme. Let's go like 100 pixels, maybe 60 pixels. Squish this a little bit more. So we've got our input area, we've got the generate button, and we've got the download button, and we've got the render area, which is just for the demo. Let's start by programming the text area. So when we type, the text appears in here inside the h1. Document.query selector. Thing that we need to target is the text area which we created here. What we want to do is add an event listener, and the event listener will be on key up. This will be also a function, and inside this function, the first thing I want to do, get the h1 element, target the h1 element. Constant query text equals get element. Actually, we can do again, let's do again query selector, and the query selector will be obviously h1. What I can do now to test whether this has worked, query text.innerHTML is equals test. Okay, this did not work. So the reason that didn't work is obviously because the event listener is on key up and I didn't type anything. So if I start typing something, you will see that the h1 text here is replaced by test. Okay, let's now cut this off. Let's start by writing an if statement, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want to check if this value is empty, and if it is, I want to display text saying start typing or something like this. If dot value is not equals empty. Query text dot inner HTML is equals this value. I'm getting the h1 tag, and then, which I have in a variable here, the value of the text area that I'm typing will be displayed here. As you can see, demo. But the reason I'm doing this is because if I remove everything, you can see this last letter is still there, and I don't want it to be like that. I want it to display something else. So let's do an else. Inside here we can say query.innerHTML, and we can display something like start typing, smiley face. So we got start typing, and if I type something like hey there, it seems to work. Also, if I remove the hey there, we get the start typing. You probably wonder now, okay, well, how do we get this to render as an image, and how do we download it? Okay, let's first focus on the generate. As I showed you earlier, if I go back to the website HTML to canvas, I'm pretty much using this code. But let me show you what I've done. Get element by ID. I want to get the element by ID render, which is this div here. Sorry, that should be like this. Inner HTML is equals nothing, and I will tell you why in a second. And then I want to do the HTML canvas code. You can actually copy from here. So let's just copy this for now. So if we save this and we go back to a project, and if we click generate, you will see that we have successfully generated our image in here. This is an actual image, and if I right click, you can see that I can save it as. But how do we make the download button work now? The reason I did the document get element by ID render in HTML is because every time we press the generate button, I wanted the old canvas to be removed and replaced by the new one. So I'll show you what I mean. If I take this code off and click generate, you will see a canvas here, and if I click again generate, you will see another canvas, and so on. So they keep generating, and that's why I'm pretty much just resetting the inner HTML. Now all we have to do is do the download function, which I actually found a very easy solution on Stack Overflow, and I just modified it slightly. So what I'm going to do is do constant, create a constant download document.get element by ID. The element that I need to get is download, which is this. Now I can do let image equal query selector, and I need to query select the canvas, which is this here. If I inspect it, you will see that this is called canvas. And what I have to do is to data URL /png replace image png, and add the image octet stream as well. Last but not least, we need to give this download constant. We need to set the attribute to be href because it's a link image. Okay. Hopefully, if everything worked, we should also, let's find a quote. Let's find an inspirational quote, and I'll add this to the right. Let's just tab this quote, for example. Also, we can do HTML in here, so I can just do a BR, and I can do Brian Tracy. So it looks a little bit more inspirational. So now If I click generate, and if I go down, you will see that we have the image. If I click on downloads, we are getting the image. Anyways, this is everything from this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know in the description below. Smash the likes, it will help me a lot. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I will be doing videos just like this, and I post videos every Tuesday.